In this lesson, I'd like to explore the unique chord melody style of one of my favorite jazz guitarists, whom I feel deserves much more recognition. And I'm referring to the late Canadian guitarist Ed Bickert, who not only is known by hardcore jazz fans for his gorgeous chord voicings, but also for his swinging lines and warm tone. Whatever recognition he did obtain internationally is probably thanks to the fact that Jim Hall highly recommended him to saxophonist Paul Desmond, and as a result, Desmond hired him and introduced him to a wider audience in his recording Pure Desmond. And personally, ever since I was fortunate to hear this recording back in the mid-70s, I have made it my mission to get my hands on everything I can find with Bickert on it. And one of my favorite albums he did as a sideman is with trombonist Frank Rosolino, and it's called Thinking About You. And it is from this recording that I have selected the snippets that we are going to use to analyze Bickert's style. And after I show them to you, I am going to share with you an etude that I wrote over the changes to Autumn Leaves so that you can begin to apply these snippets over a known standard. So without further ado, I'm first going to play 8 measures from Bickert's solo on Laura off the Frank Rosolino recording. I don't know about you, but I love those voicings. Let's analyze them. If we look at the first couple of measures, you'll see we have a 2-5 cadence that will resolve to G. The A minor 7 is just a simple drop 2 voicing held down while creating some chord melody using the root and the 9th on the first string. But it's the D13 flat 9 voicing in the second measure that really grabbed my ear. This is actually a symmetric diminished bass dominant. Listen. Interestingly enough, we see in the next measure that the resolution to the G major is delayed for a whole measure with some chord melody over a G diminished chord. Now, while the previous D13 flat 9 has a traditional dominant role, this one is known as a diminished chord with an auxiliary function. And it is something Bickert uses a lot, as we will see. Now, while a conventional dominant resolves a perfect fifth down, like the one I just played, an auxiliary diminished has the same root as the chord it resolves to. And although it feels somewhat static, you can feel the tension resolve when transitioning to the major chord over the same root. This is the auxiliary diminished over G. And you can see that it is symmetrical, of course. We can achieve the same effect anywhere in the symmetry, which is based on minor thirds. So this chord over the G root can resolve down to the 7th of the one chord, or G major, or it also sounds great when you resolve it to the 9th. And a standard that comes to mind that uses this chord is As Time Goes By. something like that. The G major 7 in this fourth measure is very rich in upper extensions, by the way. So here we have the 9th on top, we have the 13 on the 2nd string, the 5th, and the 3rd on the 4th string. The interesting thing is also this major 2nd between the 5th and the 13. It really adds a very nice, tight intervallic texture. And this is followed by a descending set of major triads in 2nd inversion, which transition chromatically from a G major 7 to a G minor 7th. So first we have this D major triad in 2nd inversion, and it's really an upper structure triad of G major. Has the 9th in the bottom, this A, the 5th, and the major 7th on top. And then it just descends chromatically. And the same structure now becomes a G minor with, in the 4th string, we have the flatted 7, the 3rd string we have the flatted 3, and the 5th on the 2nd string. And in this measure, we begin another 2/5 this time to F. And note that the G minor 7 here uses ascending triads over 6 quarter note triplets while progressing to a C7 altered dominant. So the first 5 triads are all harmonizations of the Dorian scale in G. But the 6th one is really an anticipation to the next chord, which is a C7 altered. If you're familiar with the concept of triad pairs, you'll notice that the final triad in the G minor measure forms a triad pair with the triads in the C7 altered measure. And this is a known triad pair you can use over any altered dominant in any inversion. It consists of 2 minor triads, a whole step apart. One triad should have as its root the sharp 9. So this here would be the sharp 9 for one of the triads. And the other triad, a whole step down in this case, should have the flatted 9 as the root of the minor triad. And this resolves to F. And if you're interested in knowing more about triad pairs, be sure to check out my 2-part lesson on triad pairs from hexatonics, which are simply 6-note scales. And I will put a link to it in the info section down below. And for the next to final measure, we again have an auxiliary diminished chord delaying the resolution to the F6. As if it weren't enough, Bickert follows it with a B flat 9 before finally playing the F6. Like I've stated in many other lessons, it's all tension resolve, tension resolve. That's what harmony is, at least functional harmony. And Bickert sure was a master at it. Let's listen to another snippet from a different solo on this same album. This is over a 2-5-1 in C, which goes back to the 2 chord. And you'll notice that the D minor 7s in the first and last measures are in parentheses. I inserted them so we can begin and end the cadence using chords, because Bickert played some lines instead, which would not be practical if we try to use this in a different context. You'll notice that towards the end of the first measure, he does a pickup anticipating the A flat 13 flat 9 in the second measure. Instead of just playing the conventional dominant, which is G here, he is creating additional harmonic motion by playing a tritone substitute of a D7. And like all tritone substitutes, it resolves by half step down to the G13 flat 9. And note that they are both derived from a symmetrical diminished scale. And in the third measure, we have that auxiliary diminished Bickert loves before resolving back to the 1 again. So this time C diminished 7th resolving to C6. What is also interesting is that on the fourth beat, he plays what can be viewed as a G9 sus4. Instead of staying over the 1 chord, which lasts for 2 measures, he throws in this sus4 chord to create added tension and motion before resolving back to the C major 7, or 1 chord in the next measure. The beauty of it is that he uses an identical voicing structure a whole step up, which implies a rootless major 7 chord with a 9th, 13th, and no 3rd. This, by the way, is the same voicing structure that Bill Evans used on So What with Miles Davis. And after this, he uses an A13 flat 9 to resolve back to the 2 chord. Let me show you. He slides from the C diminished 7 voicing to the C6, holding down the same fingering, only that getting rid of the 4th string. And then he plays this voicing here, which is simply a C9-6 chord. And then on the final beat of that measure, he plays that G9 sus4. Here we have the root, G, the 4th, the flatted 7, and the 9th on top. And then he moves the same structure a whole step up, and it becomes a C major. It's actually a C major with a 13 here, the 9th on the 3rd string, the 5th on the 2nd string, and the major 7 on the 1st string. And the bass player, of course, is hitting the root and giving that its harmonic identity as a C major chord. But going from the G sus to the C major. And also interesting because the voicing he played before that, on the starting with the 3rd beat of this measure, has the same fingering structure as that G9 sus and that C major 7. So something very interesting we can apply whenever we're going from a 5 chord to a 1 chord, or when we have a 1 chord that we want to create motion over. If you can identify the various 2-5-1s that make up most standards, there is tons of information in just these snippets that you can apply over entirely different standards, whether you want to comp or create chord melody over them. Of course, you'll have to transpose some of them to fit the new key, and sometimes alter a few chords to fit the changes, but you'll still hear the Ed Bickert sound and influence. That said, next I'd like to show you how I use many of these snippets over an etude I wrote over the changes to Autumn Leaves. But before I do, I want you to know that I have prepared a special study package featuring 11 more Ed Bickert snippets, such as the 2 we've explored. The download includes a PDF with regular notation and tab for a total of 13 Bickert chord melody snippets, and of course the Autumn Leaves etude also. MP3s of me playing all of them, and to help you practice, band-in-a-box files and MIDI files that you can open up in Guitar Pro or the free app MuseScore. And it's all available for a nominal contribution from jazzguitar.richiezellan.com/premium. I want you to know that there is lots more where this came from. And that's because I have transcribed dozens of Ed Bickert snippets, such as the ones we have explored in this lesson. So what I am asking here is, are you interested in learning more of these? If so, please be sure to tell me. And down the road, I will post a second part to this lesson. Unfortunately, this stuff seems to appeal to a very small minority, but somebody has to put it out there, right? For those of you still with me, as usual, I appreciate your comments, likes, and welcome your questions. And if this is your first time on this channel and you enjoyed this lesson, please be sure to subscribe. I'm Richie Zellan, and until we meet again, practice, 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 take a break, rinse and repeat, and may peace be with you.